Welcome back to the Atari ST Nostalgia GFA BASIC tour. Now, in the previous videos we built a program using a user input and getting that into variables, processing the variables and then outputting stuff to screen, and we even did some conditional code execution already, which is kind of cool, but as the code gets a bit longer and longer, it gets more important to actually to be able to keep your overview, and you might want to have some more structure in your code instead of putting everything live line by line. Now in this next video I want to actually emphasize on this, so show how you can actually get some overview in your code and how to get procedures, and then show off the code folding feature that this basic interpreter had, which was for a basic interpreter for home computers quite far ahead of its time. So let's go into the program we made, which is this one. Let's check if it still runs. Remember, it just asked me for a number and another, and it says, okay, these are the numbers. Multiplying them gives 300, and this time it says that was just average work for me. So this is a previously saved version of the code I created in the previous video, so it's a bit different text-wise compared to the one we built, but it works exactly the same as you see. But as you also see, it's only one page of code, and it already gets getting a bit difficult to see which part of the code is actually doing what, because I did not use any remarks and I did not use anything to structure my code. So this is the thing we are going to do. The first thing to put structure in your code is actually insert some proper remarks here. For instance, in this first section is actually ask and get. No, it says it's ask, get, no, ask and set variables. That's what it does. It's up to here, and what I'm doing here, no, I should actually, hang on, insert a line first, then insert a remark, because this part is basically this outputs the results, and if I don't make a typo it looks even better. This is a part that's actually outputs the results to the screen, so it clears the screen, does all these print commands, and then of course the results, the output of the results is actually ready here or here. Doesn't really matter. Let's just say the output of the results has a pause in it at the end. This is another section of the code that does something different. Computer remarks. It's sort of, let's just call this is the end sequence. This is the end sequence of the code. This is after I made it execute the code, there's something at the end to, in this case, do sort of a joke. And as you can see, it's already looking away, because okay, there's something I want to do. I'm asking and setting variables, so if I want to do more variables and more inputs, I know I can put it in this section. If I want to do more output of results or in a different way, this is the part of the code where I need to be. And of course, if I want to change my end sequence, this is where I need to be. And I can even use, for instance, I want to find sequence, and it will actually go to this part of the code. So it makes it, you can put remarks and use it to put markers inside your code to actually easily find the section that you want to work on. But it's all in the same screen, and for this program doesn't really matter. But suppose I had this end sequence, but I want to use it actually multiple times in my code. So what I can do is I could use the block function and make a copy of it, but then I would have to have this piece of code and I have to maintain it in multiple locations, which is never a good idea. So especially if you are going to call a certain piece of code multiple times, you should actually put it in something that GFA BASIC calls a procedure. And procedures are basically, it's a piece of code, you put it at the end of the program. So that's what I will do here. I will make a marker that actually from here I start working with my procedures, which also means I should not put any code behind this line, only my procedures. And once the code is in the procedure, it will not execute this code unless I call for it. So if I call the procedure, it will execute the code until it's finished, and then it will start executing the code from the line where it was. And it's really easy to make. You just type procedure and give it a name. For instance, ask set, it has to be one word. Ask set variables. I will just say ask set vars, it's easier to type. And if the procedure is finished, I should end it with a return. So now this procedure is empty. But what I can do is I want this part to be in that procedure. So I will use the block function again that I mentioned in the first video. I will go to the beginning of my code. I will start the block. I will go to the end of where I want to mark it. Now the block end, you can see the marking is actually correct. And I will go down again and I will go into my procedure and say block move. And now you can see that this part is no longer here. And actually I will do the same. I will put all of these parts in a separate procedure. Block end. I will call this procedure show results. So show results. And then I will move the block in here. And then return. And of course the end sequence I want to do the same. Here block ends, and I will go back. I say procedure end sequence. Let's just call it end sec, so I don't have to type as much when I call for it. Move. Now, as you can see, I seem to be sort of calling, naming the procedures quite arbitrary. You actually have to be quite careful when naming the procedures. I will get into that more. Now you can see I have put stuff in procedures which also gives quite a lot of structure in the code. And the cool thing is, if I'm not working on them in the editor, I can actually use the help key to collapse this code. So now I just have the 3 procedures, and suppose maybe this one or this one contained a lot of code, and I don't want to really be distracted by it. I'm just working on my end sequence. I can use the help key on my Atari ST keyboard to open this procedure, and I can just edit it, and when I'm finished I can collapse it again. Of course I'm using an emulator, so which doesn't have it doesn't have the help key like the Atari ST had. Now this one, Steam SSE, is actually, it already has a shortcut in place, so if I use the page up button, it will actually send the Atari ST key, the help key, to it. So this looks really nice. So if I test the code, yeah, it's working. So what happens if I run? Well, nothing will happen, because I have put all my code in procedures, and code inside a procedure will not be executed until I explicitly call for it. So I would still have to I still need a main program to actually to actually tell the interpreter to execute these procedures. So that's what I will do. I will name program, so I know what that one is, so it's easier to find. And of course from here I can then, in this case, just say go sub is the command to call for a procedure, ask set vars, and call for the name, go sub show results, and go sub end sequence. So now I've built my code, and it actually I will just call these procedures one by one, and if I run it now, it actually runs exactly the way like it did before. It will ask me for the numbers, it will show them, multiply them, and then because it was greater than 1,000, it will actually complain that it was a tough calculation. But yeah, as you can see, the program, it's much more easier. I mean, even normally you wouldn't split up your code this much probably, but it makes it very, very easy to overview and edit. And I think, yeah, this feature was available on like in the 70s on like IBM mainframes and stuff. But for home computers, this was really, really far ahead of this time. And now it's a standard feature in any coding program, but I think it's really cool they put it in here. Of course, in GFA BASIC 3, you don't need to use the go sub command anymore. which means if you have a procedure with a name, it's actually quite easy to just do this. So you can literally use your procedures just like a command. So if you put some text there and it's not, GFA BASIC does not recognize it as a command, what it does, it actually assumes that you are calling for a procedure. And it still works exactly the same way. So the code's still working. There's no difference here. Of course, that's also a risk. I mean, GFA BASIC thinks for you, which is really nice. But I will for instance, this is a test. This is just gibberish text, and it will not complain about it. And if I test the code, it will actually also not complain about it. But if I run the code now, it's working fine. It seems to be working fine. And now it gives me an error. It says procedure not found. Because it saw this text, it thought it was a command, and it didn't recognize it as a standard command, so it assumed it was a procedure. So it started looking for a procedure. So that's something you have to be very careful about. And there's another thing you should be careful about. For instance, if I make a procedure print hello. It's just a procedure. Let's just put the command in there. Print. Now this all looks fine. Return. So still no problem, and everything works. However, if I want to call this procedure, I can call it hang on, insert. I can still call it with the go sub command, and this will work. But the problem is, if I want to call it without using the go sub command, now this word actually starts with the word print. And the word print is a command that GFA BASIC interpreter actually recognizes as a command. And it will think, he probably meant to do something different. So I will correct this command for him. So yeah, this is not, I mean, it just changes it. I mean, in this case, it will probably still, it'll actually return a 0, because it will assume like, it print the variable hello. And because it's very forgiving, it still works, because it says, okay, this is a variable hello, it created it and it gave it a default value of 0, and the command printed out that value of 0. So the code will still work, but it doesn't call the procedure, because it automatically altered the code for me, which can be quite tricky. So you have to be really careful. And that's also why I actually prefer to keep using the go sub command, so I don't have to worry too much about the names. And for instance, I sometimes use a procedure, call it get inputs, and it will also, if I don't use go sub, it will also change it. So be careful about the name, because now I call the procedure print hello, and it will actually print the word hello and then execute the rest of the code. So you have to be, when coding, you have to be really careful what you do, because program does exactly what you tell it to do. So this is just a tip to be careful. Be careful if you're coding something. But the main thing is actually what we saw is it's very easy to provide extra overview in your code using avatars, and especially using procedures and the code folding feature of GFA BASIC, because now it's very clear. I have a main program, and the main program will basically do 3 things. It will ask set variables, show results, and do an end sequence. And if I want to know what they are, I can just open and close them here and look at them and work on them, which makes the life of a programmer, it can make your life really easy, especially as your code gets bigger and more complex. So I hope this was a very insightful video. In the next video, we will continue with some more coding. We will actually have a look at using loops, because the first program anyone makes is 10 print hello, 20 go to 10, and we will see if that still works in this version, or if we do need to do something else. But that's for the next video. This video has come to an end. I will thank you for watching, and hope to see you next time.